Yeah, well, I've been in front of a lot of people through my years, and they've asked me a lot of tough questions, which I've never been tripped up, and I wasn't tripped up in this one either. But a sixth grader stood up. It was the last question of the day in the school that I had visited and given a talk to, and the kids were all seated out in front of me, and she stood up and she said, "Have you ever killed anyone, and how did it make you feel?" We speak at 125 words a minute, but we think at 525 words a minute, and those 525 things were rushing through my head, those thoughts. And I came to the conclusion that I had to tell her the truth. I had to tell her so she understood as a sixth grader. And I had to leave her on a positive note. So my answer was this: you know, that's the worst thing about war. Sometimes you have to take somebody else's life so that yours is not taken. But I've never been proud of it. As a matter of fact, it's bothered me my entire life that I took somebody's son, somebody's husband, somebody's father, somebody's brother, somebody's uncle, somebody's friend. But you know what? I was a combat medic, and I got to save lives, and sometimes we would wound the enemy soldiers, and we had to get them patched up so we could ask them questions in the rear area. So I got to save their lives on certain occasions. So I did what I felt I needed to do. I told her the truth. I told her so I felt she understood. And I left her on a positive note. Many people died in the first day they were there. So yeah, but luckily I had been under the tutelage of a couple of machine gunners, one by the name of Doug Hatton, who just passed away this last week, and Joe Mittendorf. They were real warriors, and I tell people that I was smart enough to know how dumb I was as a soldier, and that they were talented at what they did. And it didn't matter how many degrees you have when you're in those situations. You better learn fast how to transfer over into becoming that warrior and struggling for your life on some occasions. Those 2 days are really tough, and we were combat assaulted in, which meant we came in on helicopters. And we've kind of decided that we've tried to count up numbers and heads. We had 89 guys, so we were on about 13 helicopters. They couldn't land because it was a hot LZ, which means they were getting fired upon as they were coming in to drop us off. So they made us jump from about 10 feet up. In that particular case, we had some injured as well as, you know, a bad situation coming into getting fired upon. 2 helicopters went down. One, they got the crew out right away. The other one, they couldn't quite get the crew out. So we sent a squad out to protect them while they tried to get a helicopter in and get the crew out. Couldn't do it. So they came back in with the crew, and then we got them out from there. The first helicopter that went down, everybody got out, but this helicopter, they're coming in, and they're coming in from about 200 yards away from the position that we had set up, the daytime perimeter. I saw a guy lagging behind, and all of a sudden everybody got in, and he's 100 yards back, and he collapses. So I jumped up right away, think about anything, my job now, you know, and I sprinted out to him, slid in next to him, like I was sliding into second base. I said, "Where are you hit?" He said, "I'm not hit." He said, "I hurt my knee jumping out of the helicopter and getting thrown to the ground," he said, as we crashed. And he says, I need some help. I said, "Well, hold on to your weapon because you're going up on my shoulders and we're going in." So I carried him and weaved through the crossfire, my men firing at me and the NVA coming behind me at us, and neither one of us was touched, and that's the first man that I saved of the 10 Americans, one Vietnamese interpreter in that battle.
You know, I'm honored to be part of tonight's celebration for a true American hero, Jim McCloughan. I would also like to thank the Peaceful Warriors Foundation for bringing together so many veterans and their families to recognize Jim's many years of service to our country, both in uniform and in the classroom. And for all of you who've served, thank you for your tremendous sacrifice that you have made on behalf of our grateful nation. Jim, who was known affectionately as Doc to his Charlie Company brothers, is a true example of selfless service. Last year, in one of the most moving ceremonies that I've had the privilege to attend, I watched as Doc was inducted into the Pentagon's Hall of Heroes. Hearing Doc tell his story that morning was truly an inspirational moment for me and everyone in attendance. Over a 3-day battle, Doc braved intense enemy fire and his own injuries to provide desperately needed emergency medical care. His job was to keep wounded soldiers alive so that they could get to a hospital. Unfortunately, despite his heroic efforts, Doc could not save everyone. Doc told the room how he feverishly treated soldiers, but heard too many young men pleading for their mother or God to help them with their last dying breath. Although Doc could not save everyone, what he was able to do was nothing short of extraordinary. Despite the intensity of the battle raging around him and suffering from his own injuries, he refused to leave. And during his comments at the ceremony, Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis asked anyone in the audience who was alive today because of Doc's heroic actions on the battlefield to stand. I watched as Doc's Charlie Company brothers stood. Then in the rows behind them, their families, their children and grandchildren stood. Row after row of people rose up. These were individuals who would not be alive today if it were not for the heroic actions of Doc McCloughan. Doc did not want to hear any more last words from young men dying on a hill thousands of miles from their home. Doc's life could have been taken in the battlefield at any moment, and despite his own wounds, he stayed. And he made sure that his brothers had the treatment that they needed to stay alive. And as I looked at all those people standing, many with tears in their eyes, I could see the story of heroism and legacy of one incredible veteran written on each and every one of their faces. I'm truly honored to join all of you in recognizing Jim McCloughan, unparalleled service tonight, but we know there are also countless other stories of courage and valor that are still waiting to be told. The Peaceful Warriors Foundation work to collect and preserve the stories of veterans and their wartime experience is an invaluable service. Through their stories, you are helping future generations understand the values of service and sacrifice. These personal accounts inspire us to honor the fallen, to help heal those struggling with the wounds of war, and to strive to measure up to the legacy of a true American hero, Jim McCloughan.
On the second day, I had been yelled for out in the middle of a rice paddy, medic, medic, and it was screamed, medic, you know, and I got there and it was a man with a stomach wound. So I can't move him. His organs are going to come out if I move him. I get everything placed where I think it should, pressure bandages on. Now I take my water. I'm right out in the middle of a rice paddy. You know, bullets are flying by me, and I got hit in the right arm right here with an AK-47 at that moment, but kept right on working. Dragged him in this trench line. And I'm trying, left by the French, by the way. I'm trying to think about how I'm going to carry this man out of here through the crossfire. I can't throw him over my shoulder or his insides are going to come out. How am I going to do it? And I finally decided I'm going to cradle him and get as low as I can and swerve and weave and maybe not get hit. All of a sudden, this incredible thought came over me. It had been since I was a little boy that I told my father that I loved him. And I had a conversation with my Lord, and I said, God, if you get me out of this hell on earth so that I can look my Father in the face and tell him that I love him again, I'll be the best dad, the best teacher, and the best coach that I can possibly be. And this incredible peace came over me. It was no longer in my ballpark. Whatever happened in that battle needed to be happening. And if I got through it, I needed to keep my part of the bargain. In the O'Hara airport, I ran to my father, threw my arms around him, told him that I loved him. He did the same, like we'd been doing that for the 24 years of my life at that particular moment. It was our greeting and our departure. I taught my children, my grandchildren, my athletes, and even my battle buddies. When we talk on the phone, I'll be talking with Joe Mittendorf and I'll say, Joe, I'll get back with you in a couple days. Talk to you then. I love you, Joe. I love you too, Doc. Talk to you then. So we've broken that barrier that it's okay to say those 3 words. And generally when I'm speaking and I tell that story, I give an assignment. That's a teacher for you. There's probably someone out there that you should have told that you love them. They may know that, but it's been a long time. So I'll give an assignment that you need to do that today. And there's so many ways that you can do it. You can text them or email them or talk to them on the phone, or of course, go and see them if you can do that.
It's what an honor it is to be a part of a ceremonial program that is recognizing James McCloughan for his valor, for his service. But you know, those of us who knew him before he became a Medal of Honor recipient know a humble man who went seemingly out of his way to live such an extraordinary and yet quiet and humble life of service. And when you consider what he did, how he led, what he put at risk, literally everything, embodying what makes our nation so special and strong in the first place. But to consider that afterwards he came home and he continued that service to kids and community and teaching. I remember the first time I ever met him, he was singing at a local community event in Southwest Michigan, and he's singing patriotic songs. And I thought, how cool, this teacher and this coach that have been around for a long time in these professions that invested in our kids, invested in our futures, invested in the strength of local community after giving and risking so much, and how beautiful it is now that he's being recognized. And while he doesn't appear to be particularly comfortable with all the recognition, I can't think of another person that is more deserving of this type of celebration about what it takes, the people that it takes, the service and the sacrifice that is required for us to live the type of lives that we have here in the United States of America, that we can afford, unfortunately, to take for granted every single day because people like Jim served. Thank you, James, for your service in the military, overseas, at times of war, and then continuing for literally decades back here in Michigan to make our state what it is today.
I had 11 varsity letters in 4 sports in high school, football, basketball, baseball, and track, and then I had 7 varsity letters in college in football, wrestling, and baseball. I think it helped me to transfer into becoming a soldier and being in the military. It certainly, I had been disciplined through coaching or through being coached and being in sports, but also I had already pledged a fraternity, and those types of things. I paid for my own college education. My parents were factory workers, and they had 3 boys, so since they couldn't pay for all of us, we each paid for our own education. And here I am ready to start something that I dreamt about for a while, and my whole thought process had to change. I had to understand that now I was not going to be a teacher and a coach, but I was going to be a soldier, so I'd better gear it up to be the best soldier that I could be. I was a combat medic. Well, my job, yeah, a lot of people think that we took care of all the wounds and everything, but I had a whole lot of other things that I had to take care of too. Made sure that the guys got their malaria tablets. Heat exhaustion was a big thing. You could lose a man if they went from heat exhaustion into heat stroke. So I had to make sure that I could do that very well. We had to keep people from going into shock when they got badly wounded, because someone can die of shock. I had to take care of when they'd get impetigo, and what they call trench foot. You know, I had all kinds of things that I had to take care of as a combat medic, other than the wounded and those that needed to be saved from being killed or captured. I would tell people that I did that because it was ingrained in me that when I got a job to do, whatever that job was, you do it to the best of your ability. Don't do it halfway. I was wounded the first night and was told to get on the helicopter, and I had gotten close enough to that hill, to Nuyan Hill, to see them come down off that hill. I was about 3/4 of a mile away, and they looked like lava. So I didn't know how many there were, but I knew there were a lot. And so when the head of our company told me to get on the helicopter, and I refused, and he said, "Why not?" I said, "You're going to need me." So I did what I was supposed to do. I was given a job. I didn't do it halfway. I did it to the best of my ability. And I'd rather be dead in a rice paddy than in a hospital and find out that one of my men didn't make it because I wasn't there to do my job and to rescue them.
This is genuinely an honor for me to be asked to participate in this, to make sure that we remember the stories that are so much a part of our history and so much a part of what we should be proud of in this country, and particularly to hear the stories of individuals and to honor those individuals. I'm particularly moved to be here to honor Jim McCloughan. This is an individual who exemplifies all that's good in this country and all that's good in those who are willing to put on the uniform of their country. A Medal of Honor, an individual that clearly put the interests of those around him above his own interest, exemplified incredible courage and incredible service, a service that, while remarkable, continued after his service to our country in uniform, continued as a teacher and a coach, showing that there's many different ways that service can be manifest. So the honor that he received is an honor I think that in many ways represents all the good that people who wear the uniform receive, but also shows that people who are willing to do that are also committed to their community, really for their entire lives. I think about my own father whenever I'm in a position to honor a veteran. So I want to mention his name, Jack Kilby. He is a Navy veteran. He passed away not long ago. I miss him every single day. What I miss about him most is hearing his stories, hearing him talk about his life. So in honoring you, I feel like I also get another chance to honor him, even though he's not here with us any longer. So thank you. Thanks for what you have done for our country. Thanks for what you continue to do. And for all of you that are a part of this, thanks for honoring America's veterans. They truly are the best that this country has to offer.
Changed my life forever and ever. And it made me understand how lucky I am to have been born in the United States of America and to be born to parents who knew how to love their their children. Yeah, and parents like my father and your father who have fought in wars prior to that, and now it was my turn. That kind of helped me in the draft situation. Well, I guess it's going to be my turn. My grandfather's World War I, my father in World War II, my uncle in Korea, and another uncle had been in the Coast Guard. Now Jim McCloughan was going to be in the United States Army. Well, my dad was actually a cook in World War II. So was my grandpa in World War I, so that I do know about them. But as I've said many times, they didn't talk about their war either, so never got into it. But I think what they always drove home for me and drove home for this third generation that I am of fighting in wars was that if that is asked of you, that's exactly what you do. I was a keynote speaker at an event where there were 900 Vietnam veterans there at one time. And I was able to dignify those men and tell them how important they were to keep communism out of many, many countries, how important they were to the United States of America and the future of their grandchildren and the children that they've already raised. And I've often made the comparison of your father and my father on one hand and you and I on the other. Well, the Vietnam veteran is the sons, in a lot of cases, of the World War II veterans. We both came home, we both couldn't talk about our war. We started a family and built a house and started a career. My father didn't have to talk about his because everyone was talking for him. He was from the greater generation, and rightfully so. They did many things. But we couldn't talk about it for a couple of reasons. One of them was that it was too tough to talk about, and the other one was there was so much controversy. And I tell people that father and that son, they're both warriors, and you can have your opinion of the Vietnam War, but you better love that warrior because he served for you. And although he didn't get the welcome that he should, it's not too late. Actually, I'm not doing this now for me. I'm doing it for the 89 men that went into that battle. This is really not mine. It belongs to all of them. It belongs to anyone who's fought throughout the years for the freedom that you and I are enjoying to sit here and realize that artillery and mortar rounds somebody can't rush into my house and with machine guns and tell us that we're going to go here or there or whatever. So I'm really wearing it for all of those 44 million people who have fought for the United States of America since we began being in wars a long, long time ago.
Great pleasure being here this evening and recognizing Doc McCloughan and his service to our great nation. We are the ambassadors for the United States. We are the ambassadors for the state of Michigan, and we go all over the world sharing our professionalism and our experiences and helping other people. But then we come back. We are veterans for a lot longer than we are military service. And it's a matter of what is there for us after service. A lot of it is we continue to serve, and that is as a coach, a teacher, an executive, own our own business. Peaceful Warrior Project is just one of these great programs, or gives them a platform to tell their story. When they are traveling all over the world, doing what we ask of them, doing what is needed to keep our country safe, to provide those freedoms in which we enjoy every day, it takes a toll on these soldiers, and it takes a toll on the military service member. And when they come back, there's got to be a way for them to connect to whatever resource that they are in need of, whether that is talking to someone, being around someone, doing what they love. The National Guard is something that we have over 25,000 soldiers over the last 17 years mobilized and providing service to either our state, nation, and at this time that number continues to grow because the threats within our world do not or have not diminished, nor have they gone away. And if anything else, the threats continue to get greater and greater. So we're going to continue to have more and more veterans within Michigan. And there are just so many people doing great things for our veterans.
Well, yeah, and the reason I got the Bronze Star is they said that I was only a PFC, and PFCs don't get the Distinguished Service Cross, and they told my lieutenant, put him in for the Bronze Star, and of course that went through very fast. When he told me that, he told me the situation, I said, well, I didn't come over here for any medals anyway. I just want to get home. I want to be a teacher, I want to be a coach, and I eventually want to be a father. So when I came home, I only told my father and my Uncle Jack what had happened, that I'd been discriminated against, but then I just never talked about that again, ever. Until 9 years ago, when the lieutenant wanted to go back and get the Distinguished Service Cross. He was contacted by my congressman because my Uncle Jack, my father had passed away, and my Uncle Jack was the only one left that knew what had happened. So he came to me in 2009 and said, I have an appointment for you with Fred Upton. I said, what for? He said, to get that medal that you should have gotten a long time ago. Well, then they have to contact Randy Clark. It took Lieutenant Clark 6 years and 4 months to get the case into the Army Board of Decorations and Awards. That is really where it has to go to start. 6 years, 4 months. Okay, once it got in there, a year later, I was notified that it was in the Pentagon. And I said, okay, well, how long is it going to be there? And they said, well, it'll be a while. So in October then, my wife and I are in Denver helping our daughter move into a home, and we get a call from Debbie Stabenow, who had taken over for Carl Levin. So I went from Upton, 2 years, Levin, 4 years, and now I'm with Debbie Stabenow. And I declined the call because I didn't recognize the number. She tried to call 5 minutes later, and I declined again, but she left a message, and it went like this. Hi, Jim. This is Debbie Stabenow, and I've also left a message at your home, but you know we've been trying to get you recognized for your heroism in Vietnam. And the good news is this, your case with 9 notarized eyewitness letters and the rest of the things that Lieutenant Clark has presented came across the desk of Ashton Carter, our defense secretary. He read everything and said, the Distinguished Service Cross is not high enough. He has recommended you for the Congressional Medal of Honor. It still moves me to this day to think that I went from just a PFC to someone who finally recognized my actions, not my rank. But now that's not the end of it, because that has to be given within a 5-yard period. So Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters had to design a bill to be passed to waiver the 5-year stipulation to get the Medal of Honor, which they did. That was passed December the 8th, 2016. President Obama signed it into law on the 23rd, 2016 of December. On the 25th of May, 2017, we get a call from a Colonel Zara Walters. And I said, ma'am, may my wife, who was sitting across the kitchen table in there, may she click in on another phone and hear our conversation? She said, yes, sir, she may. My wife clicked in and she said, sir, I have the President of the United States on the other line for you. And so we spoke with the President. He didn't know when they would present it, so we had to be quiet again until the White House announced the date. But he did tell me that I would be receiving the Medal of Honor and that I would be his first recipient. What a day to be in a room with the President of the United States. It's really surreal, as you can imagine, to be even standing there. And 1,000,001 thoughts went through my mind. My father, of course, my mother, and those types of things. The men who fought that battle, and 10 of them were there, by the way, and 5 of the 10 that were there were 5 of the 10 that I had rescued. And one man I had not seen since I put him on a helicopter in May of 1969. So a lot of things going through my mind, but to be there with your friends and family, the people that are close to you, it's like you're sharing a magic moment, not just yourself, but with those who you love and love you.
You know, so many of our Michigan veterans, like the heroes who we've heard from tonight, they come back from their service and they serve their community, they serve their nation, just like our honoree and just like our great nurse, Irene Hoskins. So thank you for your service to our great nation. America is a special place, remarkable in the history of the world for many reasons. But one of the reasons she is such a remarkable nation is that for 242 years, generation after generation has produced sisters and brothers of ours who will put down their private affairs and answer the call of freedom. And they have gone to every corner of the world, sailed on every ocean, fought on every continent to defend freedom, not for empire, not to take land, but to give liberty. They came from every town, from Alaska to Alabama, from California to New York, to everywhere in between, Michigan to Montana. Our sisters and brothers came from every town, every community, and they formed a team of Americans informed by core values of honor, courage, and commitment. They freed the world twice. They continue to defend freedom all across the world, every day, every moment of every day. And when they came back, and when they still come back, they're inspired by people like Irene Hoskins and Doc and 1,000 others that we've heard from, that we think about every day. They serve their communities, they're coaches, they're musicians, they're people who give to their community in elected office, in serving publicly, in every possible way. Our veterans give back, they inspire us. Those who have worn the cloth of our nation, those of us who have had the privilege of doing that, we understand we're part of a team. Individually, we are not important, but as a team of patriots and of Americans, we can do anything and we have done anything. Our Peaceful Warriors project, this foundation, it tells the story of America. It tells the story of freedom, and I am so grateful for the 600,000 veterans in Michigan that you're doing this, and for all of our veterans across the land. To our honoree, I congratulate him on being recognized this evening. But more importantly, I thank him. I thank each of you, all of our veterans who are here today, for the example of selfless service you have given each of us, you have given our community and our nation. Doc, congratulations on the award, but more importantly, congratulations on a life truly well lived.
Some people will ask me, how did we fall in love? And it wasn't my intention to really fall in love. Things were very smooth in my life. I had a daughter and a good career. And I thought, well, things are going just fine, and I'm not going to fall in love with this man. But we went for a walk on a winter afternoon in an orchard. And as we were climbing the hill of that orchard, the snow started to drift down, and he turned me around and he sang to me, "Kisses sweeter than wine." The flakes were melting on my cheeks and my heart was melting at the same time. There was something special about this man, and as our relationship unfolded, I realized there was a great deal special about this man. Not just that he could charm me with a song, but that he had a good heart. Jim makes me so proud, not only of what he did in Vietnam, but for what he did after Vietnam. He came home, he taught thousands of students and was a coach to thousands of athletes. He ran our summer parks for over 20 years, and he was a Little League coach as well, with 22 Little League teams and lots of junior wrestling teams. He had started that program. So that was all volunteerism, but it linked to his career and it linked to his love of life. He did a lot of patriotic singing and speaking. He led our Veterans Parade every year and sang at the cemetery. He was endless in his service to fundraising projects, cystic fibrosis, children's cancer campaigns, and the list goes on and on.
This song that I'm about to sing, I sang for the first time in 1991 at a basketball game. I was a wrestling coach, but I kept the announcements for the basketball team. And they said, hey, we went to Desert Storm today. Could you sing a special song tonight to get everybody into the right mood as our soldiers go to war in Desert Storm? And I said, no problem. We're going to do it right now. If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with these children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Doing great, kids. From the lakes of Michigan to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Lansing down to Houston, New York to LA, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there isn't any doubt I love this land. God bless the USA, the USA. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today.
land. God bless the USA.
Been very lucky. I've had some great individuals come through my athletic programs in my classroom, and my children, I couldn't have designed them to be better individuals than they actually are. So been very lucky. But yeah, you know, you need to look back on, I think, the appreciation and the fact that I did make it and I was able. I often say I'm blessed more than I deserve. I'm the lucky one to have been touched by so many individuals. And I'm the lucky one to have been able to come back and actually do what I wanted to do. If you think about those 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that didn't come back, what could they have done? How could this world be different if their life had not been taken from them? How can their parents live each year and not have them at special events and at holidays, and when big things happen like the birth of a child? And none of those guys ever were able to be fathers and husbands for the rest of their life. They felt they did their job and came home. Now it was time to do their job and serve as civilians, but yet always remind me how important and how lucky I was to be an American. And you know, all these controversial things come up about the flag and this and that and the other thing. You know, that flag to me represents all of those soldiers that have fought in all those wars, and the red in there, as a combat medic, I look at that as the blood that's been shed by so many through the years. Millions have given their life so that the United States of America can remain the United States of America.
What a wonderful evening. To all the veterans who are here with us tonight, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. And thank you to the Peaceful Warriors Project for hosting tonight's event and sharing our veteran stories. It is such an honor to be here tonight to celebrate my friend, a true American hero, Jim McCloughan. Although Jim would be the last person to describe himself as that. We've all heard the story of how Jim earned that status during the Vietnam War. Over 2 days of battle, Jim, an Army medic, put himself in danger time and time again to rescue his fallen brothers. And when the battle ended, he had saved the lives of 10 members of his company, plus an interpreter. Jim received a number of awards, including 2 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars before the Medal of Honor. What hasn't received as much recognition is what Jim has done after his military service. For 45 years, South Haven has been the lucky recipient of Jim's lifelong dedication to continuing service to country and his community. He taught social studies and sociology. He coached championship teams in football, wrestling, and baseball. And he ran the summer recreation program. He raised money to fight cancer and cystic fibrosis. He was a member of the National Blueberry Committee. He announces South Haven High School basketball games. He's a member of the American Legion and the local Historical Society. And if that isn't enough, he helps reunite soldiers he fought beside in the Vietnam War. And like so many other veterans, Jim has found joy in music, sharing his musical gifts in his church choir and at events like tonight. It was an honor to be at the White House in 2017 when Jim McCloughan was awarded the Medal of Honor. And I can't think of anyone more worthy. And now, it's my honor to be here tonight to celebrate Jim's 45 years of service to his community when he came home. Jim, you're an amazing example of what one person can accomplish when you care deeply about other people. Michigan is so proud to call you our own, and I'm even more proud to call you my friend. Please welcome the Peaceful Warrior Project's Above and Beyond Award recipient, Jim McCloughan.
Just like I've accepted to take care of this medal for 89 men that went into a battle, I accept this award tonight for all 44 million Americans who have put on the uniform that is the best uniform in the world. And they fear nobody. They will give whatever they have to give for mankind. When I retired in 2008, both my principal and athletic director, whom I'd had on teams, of course, and in class, came to me and they said, "Jim, do you know how many lives you've touched?" I said, "Whoa, wait a minute. I'm the lucky guy. Do you know how many lives have touched me?" And I stayed in one place, and they just kept coming. A community that wrapped its arms around a barefoot boy from Bangor who started with no electricity and no running water till he was 9. And they made me feel important. But more than that, they let me serve as God would want me to serve. If there's any lesson that you've learned tonight, it's that everyone that you've seen here, from the musicians to the warriors to the nurses who took care of those in hospitals, they are the real heroes, and they are the real service people. And they did it because they love you. God bless you, and God bless the Peaceful Warriors. Well, I think I'm a peaceful warrior because I understand how lucky I am to be an American, and because I have fought next to those who would give even their life to be able to preserve what we enjoy day in and day out. I've often said, if you want to thank a veteran for your freedom, enjoy it. Don't misuse it, don't abuse it, but enjoy it. Sit around the table, have some great laughs. Sit around the table and eat your hot dogs and hamburgers and enjoy it. But don't forget who gave it to you. I'm a peaceful warrior now because I've been in a position where it wasn't peaceful. It was nothing but chaos, killing, and bleeding. And now I can be peaceful. I can live in a country where I know that I'm going to be okay.